June 26, 1977, Fuji, Japan, a small town in the Hiroshima prefecture, Tai Kubo was born. Kubo decided in elementary school that he was going to become a mangaka. After reading the manga Saint Seiya by Masami Kuramada, Kubo's first one-shot was Ultra Unholy Hearted Machine, which was written for Weekly Shonen Jump in 1996. Kubo followed that project up with his series Zombie Powder that ran in Shonen Jump from 1999 to 2000 with 27 chapters. Shortly after the cancellation of Zombie Powder, Tai Kubo submitted a new story concept for a manga called Bleach. Bleach was one of the biggest mangas in the early 2000s, deemed as one of the big three series at the time, along with Naruto and One Piece. Bleach ran for 15 years, from 2001 to 2016, with 698 chapters, as well as a smash hit anime that ran from 2004 to 2012 with 366 episodes and made its return in 2022 with the Thousand Year Blood War, the final arc of the series to finish it out. Now, let's go back to 1977. The Love Gun Tour was going on with the infamous band Kiss headlining the whole thing, performing the album of the same name. Kiss was one of the most prominent rock bands of the early 1970s to the 1980s, best known for the theatrical performances, makeup, and costumes. Kiss founding members were Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, and Gene Simmons. After the peak of Kiss's popularity, Gene Simmons ventured into many avenues of entertainment, one of those being Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, which was an American reality television series that aired on A&E from August 7, 2006 to July 14, 2012. This show followed Simmons and his family. Gene was trying to hop on the trend of reality TV that was ever so popular in the early 2000s. In this show, we are introduced to Nick Simmons. Nick Simmons, outside of being the son of Gene Simmons, is best known for completely ripping off Bleach. As the seasons went on for Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, Tai Kubo's Bleach was reaching its peak in popularity, with the Bleach anime coming out red hot during the same time as Gene Simmons' Family Jewels. Apparently, Nick Simmons was a fan of the medium of comic books, as his dad, Gene, had already dipped his toes in the comic book industry, creating his own imprint under IDW with the Gene Simmons Comic Group in 2007. In July of that year, the first issue of Gene Simmons' House of Horrors, a quarterly horror anthology, was introduced, which featured many different stories created by Gene, with many different artists and writers bringing these creations to life. One of these stories being written and drawn by Nick Simmons. This comic was titled Skullduggery, which would be Nick's first attempt to write and draw a comic. Skullduggery, after its first issue was dropped from IDW, according to Nick Simmons, his artwork was not up to pro standards. It was amateur at best. This cancellation of Skullduggery didn't deter Nick from trying to get his comic to life. Simmons was planning on maybe trying to get this comic into a web series. Luckily for Simmons, he was able to get his comic series picked up by Radical Studios after the co-founder Barry Levine saw some of Nick's artwork while working on a deal with Gene Simmons. Barry told Nick that he would publish his comic but needed to overhaul the comic and start over. Fast forward to August 2009, we got Incarnate.
You know, comic books are my passion, so using his name to promote it, just anything that'll sell it is fine. Once you have a passion, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm shameless about promoting this thing. I want to sell this thing. It's what I want to do for a living. So this is a poster for it. This is Incarnate, written and drawn by me.
And what, did you develop a passion initially as a reader, or what got you into it?
I read, I read, comics from Japan and American comics.
Incarnate is about a fictional species of creatures, revenants. The revenants are almost immortal as they can regenerate their bodies. The storyline focuses on a revenant named Mott who has lived for hundreds of years because of the revenant's regenerative capacity. Mott desires to die honorably on the battlefield for the revenants, but can't because they are almost immortal. However, when the Sanctum organization finds a way to kill revenants, Mott sees the avenue to his death. When reading this comic, it reminds me of something you would see on a website like Webtoons, Tapas, or Manga Plus. It wasn't anything special and at times was hard to read. very amateurish. So I don't see how much progression he got from Skullduggery to this series, but I digress. The initial miniseries was supposed to be the first story arc on a long-running comic that was supposed to evolve with a second and third story arc. This may have happened if it wasn't for this one YouTube channel promptly named Jim Supreme. Jim and his friends would review comics, manga, and anime on this channel. On episode 89 of Jim's show Geeking Out Weekly, Jim stated this about Incarnate Issue 1.
It's very minimalistic. There's a lot of art references towards Hellsing, One Piece. There's a few other animes I can pick out and mangas. It's almost like he's ripping right from the other books. And I mean that literally. You look at the books, and if you're any manga fan, you're going to know it on sight.
Then on episode 98, followed up with this.
Next up, Incarnate number 2, written and drawn by Nick Simmons and Nam Kim. And how many characters can Nick Simmons rip off again? This is just another horror show of copyright infringement. And I mean that quite literally. It's like, looking at this book, I recognize so many characters from so many series, it's hard to count. And the fact that he's getting away with it, I just don't understand it at all. It's horrible. The writing is okay, but everything else just makes this series make me go, why?
These statements were about 6 months before everyone caught on to Nick Simmons' plagiarism. Now, I can't tell you how many views these videos got at the time of release, but I do believe these videos were the catalyst to the exposure of Nick Simmons' blatant plagiarism. These videos must have been seen by the right people because in February of 2010, all hell broke loose on Nick Simmons and his comic. Slam piece after slam piece, blog post after blog post were written about his comic. Manga fans were completely outraged, specifically Bleach fans. There were viral images of Nick's panels and pages lined up exactly to Kubo's Bleach pages. Many of Simmons' character designs came straight from Bleach. The fight scenes and the whole nine were pretty much ripped from page from Bleach, Hellsing, and many other manga. Fans of Bleach reached out to Viz Media and Tai Kubo about these blatant ripoffs of their IPs. Evelyn Dubik, senior director of public relations at Viz Media, the American publisher of the Bleach manga, was quoted as saying, "We appreciate all our fans bringing this matter to our attention, and we are currently investigating this issue." Tai Kubo had also reacted to this situation by posting 2 tweets commenting on the accusations and noting that he was more concerned by the fact that Gene Simmons' son was a creator of comics than he was concerned about his work being copied. To me, that second tweet about Kubo's concerns over Dick being a comic creator is more profound than anything else. Kubo and many of the other mangakas that Simmons ripped off put in countless hours in honing their craft. In Japan, being a mangaka isn't an easy feat at all. Weekly deadlines, countless editor meetings, and little to no sleep. Most of these mangaka end up with major health issues from this lifestyle. Even being a cartoonist in America is a tough task to manage. Nick did not put in this 10,000 hours in order to get published. His dad handed him everything when it came to getting his comics published. IDW and Radical Studios seem to only have done business with Nick in order to appease Gene, in order to get Gene to sign and do business with their publishing companies. Nick didn't even care about the media as much as he said he did prior to, and this can't even be cemented more when he said this after being called up for his plagiarism. Like most artists, I'm inspired by work I admire. There are certain similarities between some of my work and the works of others. This was simply meant as a homage to artists I respect, and I definitely want to apologize to any manga fans or fellow manga artists who feel that I went too far. My inspirations reflect the fact that certain fundamental imagery is common to all manga. This apology, if that's what you want to call it, comes off as truly disingenuous. Stating these tracings as homage or similarities is crazy. Furthermore, trying to dismiss this stuff by saying it is just part of an art style that is common to all manga is horrendous. Yes, manga does have a style to it, similar tropes that are inspired by one another. All artists are influenced by one another, but that's not what Nick did at all. He didn't seem to care. He hadn't made a comic since then. Granted, he might be blackballed from the industry, but I'm sure he could come up with enough money to self-publish a comic if he was really passionate about it. But lo and behold, he has not. Stories like this are why comic fans don't take outside entities who try to produce comics seriously. Honestly though, I'm not going to put all the blame of this plagiarism on Nick Simmons, because if you look at the credits on this comic, there are plenty of names and a whole ass studio who helped him make this comic. Why didn't they say anything to Nick? Or maybe it was these people who showed Nick these mangas. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating at this point. But it seems that this could have been prevented well before this book hit the printers. I don't see why Nick didn't just hire an artist, or why the publishers didn't say something about his artwork. Because even if he didn't rip off like Bleach, the artwork isn't very good in this comics. So I don't know. I appreciate you guys watching the video to the end. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. I'm on my way to 4K subscribers, so I appreciate everybody who's new to subscribing, who has been subscribing. I appreciate everybody who's watched all my videos. I've been getting so much love and views on these last couple videos, and I feel really great, and I appreciate everybody who's supported me. If you don't know, or you're new here, I am a comic book creator myself. I recently put out a comic called Tit for Tat, which is a horror comic about what your imaginary friend would do if you were being violently bullied. So go check that out. I have copies for sale on my website. I also have a bunch of free comics you can download on my website as well. I recently put out a art book called Ink Slapper, which is a collection of art piece that I did all in November and December, drawings that was recommended by you, the viewers. There's a bunch of characters that I drew throughout, I think it was like a 2-week period. Yeah, it's free to download. I also have a bunch of older comics that I've made in the past last year that are free to download, so go check them out. Highly appreciate you guys' feedback for those comics. I also have a new comic that I just finished called Scrub, which is about my time playing AAU basketball. It's more of a slice of life comic, so it's not really any fantastical elements, but if you're a fan of like basketball manga, like Slam Dunk or things of that nature, this is more in that vein. Would appreciate you guys checking that out as well. Again, thank you for watching this video to this part. It really helps with the algorithm. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.